so little time. The department picked out 2 specific ones that they asked that we start with, using we in the royal sense. A thinker has a different vocabulary. He uses the same words as everyone else. They just have a different meaning for him, like the word serious, for example. And a viewer wrote at the bottom of the page, it says, asking, didn't you mean to say that a real thinker has a secret vocabulary rather than a different one, blah, blah, blah. Could I point out, if someone who could think in a way that was nonpartisan, whatever it is that we're trying to insinuate by using the term thinker and real thinker and independent thinker, and then say he has a different vocabulary, oh, he uses the same words as everybody else, they just have a different meaning. If that be true, would that give you some notion, would that give you a new view of all the old idea that there is some sort of secret knowledge somewhere? Now, you do not have to be an ex-druggie or even a current druggie and have weird dreams of mysticism to be all involved with secret knowledge. You can be fairly middle class, Presbyterian even. The point is, in religion, even if they do not use the terms, the good mainstream religions, it's all involved with some sort of transcendental awareness, consciousness, knowledge. The easy verbal shot being this constant belief that there is secret knowledge somewhere. Find it all the way back pre-Grecian times, scratched on the sides of caves and on buses back then, graffiti, all the way to the day of people believing that there's a group of men somewhere, there's a monastery somewhere, that there is secret knowledge, or if there's not men alive, it's written in a book somewhere and it's been lost. Do note this, those of you that have any interest, just at all, you've probably read enough, that there have been expeditions, there have been people who devoted their life to finding this secret knowledge and in fact found what they thought to believe the source. And what does it always turn out to be besides mundane? Nothing. You know, I made up our own examples for us. If you like a more up-to-date version, the idea, the belief that there are creatures flying here from other planets. More intelligent creatures, I should add. I always forget to add that. Well, they definitely seem to be more intelligent than the people who seem to spot them and talk to them, but hey, that's none of my business. The idea of creatures from another planet, creatures from another time zone, creatures coming out through some cosmic black hole, superior beings, the gods themselves. And I present this question to you not to make some point and not to attack religion or mysticism or anything else, but I have pointed out what, if you can just think at all, if you can just barely glance at a wall, just a nice point blank wall, you can hear it. If indeed this great spaceship, this great force field of some kind landed, and the word went out that the God, some cosmic force, a spokesman for the center of the universe, for the heart of reality, is going to be here with the message you've been waiting for, and you rush to hear it, what the hell is it going to be? Now all I can do is I can start making them up. You can make up your own. What's it going to be? All of humanity crowds around this weird thing that looks like maybe Rod Serling's toupee before he died, and it shimmers and it puts out, ooh, you know, it sounds like somebody playing one of those real cheap Kmart synthesizers, you know, circa 1961. And all of humanity is crowded around, and you're waiting, regardless of race, creed, color, intelligence, nationality, religious background. You're waiting for the word. Let's just assume that until then you've got no reason to disbelieve it. That we're going to get some supernatural word. What's it going to be? You make up your own, but it's going to be something like, to live is to love. And then they say, thank you, and they fly off. Oh, pick it out. Love thy neighbor. Don't cheat. Be good to your children. Tomorrow is the first day of the rest of your life. Now, I'm not specifically poking fun at those bromides because they do not need additional fun poked thereon or two. The point is, what else is it going to be? You can say, well, that's pretty, every day I've heard all that crap. Right. But what else do you want? What else could you hear? And don't say, well, I want to hear the real truth. Such as, make up a version right quick. Wet chickens will not long tolerate tyranny. Right? That's one you never heard. You like that? A seeker who falls off of a high cliff shall seek no more. Right. The point is this, really. Now forget all the ideas or the specific ideas. Don't get hung up on criticizing and say, well, people's been looking for secret knowledge in the wrong place. They shouldn't be going to Tibet or going here and there. There's still the idea, without you being a tie-dyed mystic, that there is some sort of secret knowledge. Everybody will believe that. Everyone is wired in to the universal intelligence in such a way, not I didn't mean that mystically, but they're tied in. They're tied in. Well, I just thought that's the kind of crap they say. So everyone's intelligence, everyone's mind is wired in such a way that under some condition, everyone that's sane will buy into the story that there is secret knowledge. If it's nothing else, it would be the knowledge that the gods have. The knowledge, the unspoken knowledge, the wisdom of the physics of the universe. The unified field theory, if they can ever come up with it, would be the secret knowledge. And yet every time they find what seems to be secret knowledge, it turns out to be mundane. That if the gods fly back down, let's go to that one, in the flying saucer, and so we're going to tell you people a secret. All of you people who want to know the purpose of life is this: to work and pay taxes. Come on. But you understand, if it doesn't, let me put it to you, may I, very directly, seeing what an intelligent crowd we have. If the secret knowledge doesn't make any sense, I'm going to tell you the truth. It won't make any sense. Has anybody got a pen? All right, assuming the point has been made, then do you understand why all secret knowledge, back to people finding secret knowledge, it never amounts to anything. I mean, you never hear of it. They may get a book out of it. They may sell a few copies in some sort of select metaphysical circles, that somebody that's, channeling now for a dead Indian chief, or, a dead rugby player from Brazil, from some long-lost Buddhist philosopher. And who knows why? Maybe you go buy the book, and you think, and it's all this information. It's 600 pages. If it's going by the pound, it looks like a good buy. And it's all this secret information that this dead warrior chief from some Zulu tribe or some Mongolian warlord from 2000 BC is now sending back 627 pages, it's only 1995, of this secret information. And you go through it all, and is there going to be anything astounding? No, there could be a few things insane. But is it going to strike you as, this is meaningful information? Now, I know that if you're outside the mainstream, you can think, yes, this is meaningful. But if you could look at it with a fairly cold eye, what is it? And when I keep saying mundane, I am not using that in a specifically pejorative sense from any view. I'm just saying it has to be something that makes sense. It has to be something that when you read it or hear it, you almost go, well, yeah. But then you're supposed to ask yourself, well, wait a minute. I've traveled all the way around the world to find this monastery, this cave in India, or conversely to travel to Akron where the gods landed with the flying saucer I was talking about. I went to all this trouble to hear this information, and this great voice came from the saucer and told me what it was, and as soon as I heard it, I went, well, yeah. That's mundane. Do you understand why there's no such thing as secret knowledge? Because if there's anything secret that a thinker knows, it's not secret in that sense. It's that everything that you know at the ordinary level, everything that he knew at the ordinary level, he now knows differently. That, I suggest to you, is what's meant in the news item that says a thinker has a different vocabulary. Dash. Oh, he uses the same words as everybody else. They just have a different meaning. Does that explain it? If you understand that, there was another news item a few nights ago that pointed out that thinkers have throughout history, sort of, I don't think it said sort of, but I'm just being kind of friendly and casual. I was thinking about street corner doo-wop. If you can catch the connection, if you can't, never mind. That real thinkers have produced what amounts to a parallel development of knowledge. And you, from any ordinary sense, you can't call it better or worse. Now, the mystics and religious people, when they think of secret knowledge, of course, they would say it is better knowledge, which is why it's secret, is too dangerous to fall into the hands of the everyday people, such as God is love. Oh, you're right. Hey, that'd kill us. Don't let that out. Or the purpose of life is to work real hard, do good, stay uptight, go in debt, and then die. Hey, you're right. If that knowledge got out, we'd be done for. But if the news item was pointing out something that did have some validity, that said that real thinkers have historically produced a parallel development of knowledge, and rather than just make it sound too theoretical, could I suggest that there's a strong possibility that's happened, which I could also suggest is the basis for the ordinary idea and a belief in a secret knowledge. As ordinary people would say, well, that's exactly what we think. I know. Except they think it is literally a secret knowledge. They always have. It's nothing new, and it's no particular flaw having to do with any area of this planet or any epoch of time. Is they believe that there is a secret knowledge. It's like the answer to what's the purpose of life? Why are we here? But for some reason, it just strikes everybody correctly that it's secret. All you got to do is say, well, if anybody knows that, it's not common knowledge. And ordinary sane people go, well, yes, certainly not. And at one time, many children believe, children, and adult children, that, well, my priest probably knows, or the priesthood knows. And of course, it's to your advantage, if you believe that, not to ever go ask a priest. Not a sane priest or rabbi to say, do you actually know the purpose of life? Here, have another drink, I'm buying. Get a couple in him, and this man going to tell you the truth. He's going to say, hey, what I look like? I'm trying to hold on here and keep my job too. Could I have another drink? You still buying? But there is still the belief people will react to, that there is a secret knowledge, but back to the point I was trying to get you to see, and they believe that it is distinctly different in it's beyond I was going to say either quality or quantity. I could do either one, and it's really beyond that. They have to believe that it's beyond a literal translation or comparison, that it's got to be astounding. But then the mind cannot any further analyze it. If you say, you're talking about absolutely astounding. Yes, it's got to be singular. Do you know what you're talking about? Yes, it's got to be unique even, by definition number one, all right? Sans pariel, yes. But now if you mean that literally, well, I do, I believe in it. But if you mean that literally, do you realize if you found it, you wouldn't know what the hell it said? Well, I don't know. Do you follow? I was playing both parts. What if the reason that none of this ever comes to any fruition, that people cannot find secret knowledge, and that people, many books have been written, of people that devoted their life, according to the book, going to track down some teacher somewhere, or some group of people hiding in the mountains of China, some people that reportedly had a book that was written from the tears of Buddha 2 hours after his body laid down. And they go find it. And it makes a nice travelogue, and they may end up on a lecture circuit and showing slides and sell a book or two. And it took them 30 years to get there, to track it down, and they get the book, and what does it amount to? I mean, if you were reading it as an interested party, not as a critic, and you're hoping, well, by God, I paid money, or that's not the point, but you're hoping, well, he found it. God, I wish I could have done that. And you're reading, and it gets down to, he finally, maybe even after he gets to the monastery, it takes him 2 or 3 months or 2 or 3 years, he has to stay there and prove himself, and replay out the King Arthur legends and slaying dragons, at least figuratively, and they finally let him go through different areas of the monastery, and finally he gets to see the old man that was actually, supposedly, in a previous life, was there when Buddha died, or Confucius, somebody. And he says, what is the secret? And you've been waiting, and you want to, and what is it? It has to make sense. It has to be mundane. Now think about it. I'm just saying this is not a criticism of life, because life, I always liked. You can say life doesn't need criticism. You can say life doesn't care whether you criticize, which is really a good one. It's not that, but once you understand that the idea of secret knowledge is right at the heart of knowledge, that has everything in the world to do with the intellect developing continually, that's nonstop. Or else you would figure by now we'd be further along. From one view, we're nowhere along. No offense, but there's no doubt that we have technically, scientifically evolved and progressed. But if you'll pick up, I don't know, books, writings of 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, Old Testament, Greek dramas, history still holding over in China, and you read about, what do they call it? What's that term? Human nature, I believe is what they call it. And you read about it, and then you pick up today's paper, and then just sort of look off. Don't get upset. Don't sweat bullets. Just kind of look off, and you're aware of the fact, well, we certainly got much better automobiles and public transportation and electronic entertainment than they had 3,000 years ago. But insofar as, I don't know, the conscious evolvement, or just the evolvement of human nature, perhaps you could look off and muse. Perhaps ponder a bit further that it seems not quite as certain. You understand that there is no doubt we have more technology in our private, personal homes today than your forefathers and mothers did 4,000 years ago. There's just no doubt about it. Insofar as ordinary humans, inside their, human nature, being that much different, I wouldn't jump to any hasty conclusions. No. So I was trying to show you that even people who are not mystical at all, even people who are not religious fanatics, will still respond to the idea that there is secret knowledge, because it's on the basis that the human intellect has never been completed, that human nature is still evolving, and therefore there's always the unknown. Always. No matter what you learn. You learn the multiplication tables, and if they told you where you went to school, let's say Alabama, and they told you, well, hey, the multiplication tables don't go any higher than 10 plus 10, because, let's say, assume that nobody over there even knew it. Once you learn that 10 plus 10 and you got all those down, assuming that you don't die, sooner or later humanity is going to come up with 11 times 11. You understand? That's secret knowledge. That was a long way to go around just to insult the fine people of Alabama. And I sorely regret it. So everybody will respond to secret knowledge, no matter, may have to be called something else. But the reason that it cannot reach fruition in one respect, why it cannot come to any satisfying revelation that somebody says, well, I found it. I am positive. I have tracked down. I've gone through all sorts of religious, strange, obscure texts, and I have found the place. Now I went there and blah, 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 and years and years and years, and it comes out and something's wrong, because it's always so routine. It's so everyday, so self-evident. Of course, some of the people that spent their whole life doing it, then they have to sort of explain away, or else go nuts on the spot, like, well, I should have known that. I mean, if it turns out that the secret from the monastery is God is love, which is always, that's always a safe one, because what are you going to do? Stand and say, what a bunch of shit. I mean, if you were the sort to have gone through that, you sort of, if you're ordinary, you kind of hesitate. If this little man that you spent all this time, and he comes out and he makes weird signs and he looks real sweet like everybody's grandmother, except he's a man, he's got a beard, and he's hunched over and he says, well, my boy, God is love. I mean, what are you going to do? Punch him in the mouth and say, God damn, you mean I spent 40 fucking years for you to tell me that? You have to sort of go along. But from anything resembling a non-critical intellectual view at all, something is missing. Always. And what is it? That's what this news item is touching. The secret knowledge is not secret in the quality of the knowledge. It's not even secret in the quantity of the knowledge. That's why they keep making up words. If you notice that, in religious circles especially, not even those real fanatically metaphysical, but it's a constant story of people, they'll start off the easy way, they'll change their name. And that's not just mystics, it's throughout every religion, and Buddha did it, Jesus did it. But people do it today, and then they'll start making up their own words. Abracadabra, Shazam. Of course, I'm not sure how mystical Captain Marvel considered himself. Or, of course, Gomer Pyle, I guess, is where you people think invented it, but he stole it. He stole it. At any rate, well, as you should know, they make up words. Especially cults, as they're called. You remember those that's the ones run by suicidal fanatics as opposed to dead fanatics, which are the ones who actually found religions as opposed to cults. At any rate, they constantly make up their own secret terminology. And some of the laughter, I'm sure that some of you have played around the edges of that, is you feel like, well, and sometimes some of the news items, I've even had people play around with it, like, well, you got to call it something else. In the news items, I say a real thinker. And if I wanted to take even an opposing view of an ordinary person, I say, well, what the hell's a real thinker? You either think or you don't. You're conscious. And yeah. And of course, you know by now that I'm simply trying to insinuate something else. And the easy way, rather than try to figure out what's in the future, that is, what is in ignorance, that is, where is the human intellect going, that is, what is tomorrow, rather than do that, make up a damn name for it. Aha! I see where this is all headed now. All these other fools and idiots, well, people who in simpler times were out looking for secret information, trying to find the Godhead and trying to find the center of the universe, I begin to see what it is. And this Gladumpia. It's not just funny. It's not just funny. Think about it. Some of you already have in the past. Well, some of you did it. You probably didn't think about it. It's if you don't know what it is, put a brand new name on it. You're already, in a sense, contributing to the great lore of secret knowledge. You might even write it down sometime to somebody. Maybe you'll go hang around and do the one I told you about, that guy. Hang around the flying saucer section of the public library and write down Galumpria. Once you see somebody that looks real serious and keeps looking at the books, especially some kid with maybe a beard and a Grateful Dead button on, and he keeps looking, go over to him and say, we have been watching you, and here's the message for this decade for you. And burn it, go downstairs and burn it and throw it in the commode as soon as you read it once, and you hand it to him. I know it may sound a little, I don't know what, you fill in the word. But that is contributing to the lore of secret knowledge. Whether you actually do it to somebody else or not, you did it to you. That you believe in that which you don't understand. You accept it, which people do in religion, but the words many times seem fairly ordinary. But they involve themselves in literal incongruities, non sequiturs, invented words, on the basis of hiding the fact that there is no secret knowledge of which they're aware. All they know is that they respond to the idea that they absolutely believe that it's true, that it's got to be. You just can't explain it. You can't deny it. Except no one can find it. And what if I just have been telling you the reason why? It's always there. It's running along right beside the train, right beside the bus. It's no secret words. If you look out the window, it's not a griffin running along. It's not a dodo. It's not a dragon. It's not a non-existent animal, that is, piece of information. You look out, and if you look at it and listen just right, it does have a certain resemblance to Stairway to Heaven. But see, that's what you're faced with. The human intellect says, boy, I love jazz. I love new music. I always play that new music station. The one that I don't like that stuff plays the old hits. I'm looking for secret music. I'm sorry, secret knowledge. No, I'm sorry, secret music. Yeah, but it better sound a little bit like Stairway to Heaven, or else that station is gone. Yeah, I like secret knowledge, but Jesus, not that secret. That sounds too weird. What the hell does that mean? Damn, the people, they dropped their songbook. I thought John Coltrane was dead. Listen to that crowd. What does that mean? Do you follow or not? Well, if you don't, remember this. It doesn't cost you more not to follow it. And the viewer writes. Shut up, you viewers. Well, see, that's all right if I make them up. Hush. What if it is in the meaning? I know this sounds fairly mundane. That wait a minute, you mean you have explained away 5,000 years of the belief in secret knowledge. And it didn't cost any more. And an ordinary viewer says, I don't like that even if it's true. I told you to shut up. It's another reason, by the way, that the human intellect, if you recall one from last time, must be fashionable. Ordinarily becomes fashionable. That a kid at whatever age gets over the idea that my intellect needs to be fed. I need secret information. I want some superior information. I want some information not available locally. It's what you feel like, which is secret knowledge, secret information. But very shortly, it's down to the point, once you get past being that initial hunger intellectually, you got to become city-wise. You got to become sophisticated. You got to become civilized. You have to become fashionable. You think whatever everybody else thinks, more or less. You have to at least think that which is fashionable. And if there is real secret fashion or real secret knowledge, it would not be fashionable. Because if you could put it on and wear it out, people say, God damn, that doesn't sound anything like Stairway to Heaven. You don't like the fast-moving metaphors then. Switching them faster than the human eye or any conductor or man working in a train yard could see. Well, in the closing 30 seconds, I'll go to the second one that they asked me specifically to be sure we, speaking royally, are not here for any reason, if not, but to please. The chemical and mathematical structure of certain situations are such that beyond any hormonal attraction or affinity that one may physically feel toward others, I'm paraphrasing this, a real thinker doesn't think about his personal relationships, as with his friends, etc. He doesn't think about it on the basis of it being close, but rather about how much he likes them. Now, if we had more time, which I'm glad we don't, so I arranged it. If we wanted to play Miss Manners or Betty Crocker, she didn't give out social advice, did she? Shut up, Betty. Dr. Brothers. We could take this into the area, actually, of physical relations and say that just either sexually, between sexes, or between friends, ordinarily you would think people want to be close. They think about how close we are, how close we are. There would be another way to look at that if you wanted to sort of up the stakes. It's not to take away the feeling, because it already says beyond any hormonal attraction. So we assume that you're already attracted, that the attraction, if it was sexual between people, was real, which means hormonal, that you actually attracted. Friendship between the same sexes, nothing sexual, but between men, between women, is still hormonal. If you've got an affinity, no matter what you can say, well, it turns out we like the same literature and we like this and we're friends, yeah. But it still has to have a hormonal basis. Beyond that is the point. That if it was romance or friendship, the suggestion here, the news item says that a real thinker would not be thinking about it on the basis of how close we are, but on the basis of how much I, the thinker, likes them. Now, it doesn't deny anything else. It doesn't say that they don't like you in return, etc., but it's up the stakes. It is more willful. You have some more control over it. If we were talking about ordinary affairs, which who gives a goddamn? I don't. So now on to the real thing. Well, I know you don't either. But on now, friendship between people. How about this? If you took the same news item, then instead of a feeling that ordinary people do, nothing wrong with it, but ordinary people, lovers, husbands, wives, lovers, friends, they would say, well, yeah, we're close. I grew up with a guy, he's my best friend, or I've met him now later in life, we have the same interests, we think alike, he's my best friend, or she is my best friend. I've never met anybody like she is. How close we feel. But hormones change. I'm not trying to give you the blues, but I'm going back now. If we were playing an ordinary social advisor, Miss Lonely Hearts, the chances are any romance is sooner or later going to wane, and perhaps even wane drastically. That is, you get up and there's no one to your pillow, and your wife says, hi, have a nice day, I'm out of here. That kind of thing. Friendship can be tenuous. If we were talking about, if that's all we were talking about. And so from one view, do you understand, rather than you depending upon what seems to be the relationship, although it may be, well, it has to be real according to this. It was actually a hormonal attraction. But beyond that, rather than you saying, well, we feel close, because then it's almost as though the attraction, the relationship, is now leading and you're following in the dance. It's like you've almost cut out the other person as being, they're part of the dance or you wouldn't be friends or lovers with them, but it's now not on the basis that we're close, it's that how much I like them. The unsaid part of this being like, well, screw what they do. Being crude, but you get the point. If you go past friendship, have we still got any tape at all? Beyond that, now take that whole thing, instead of it being two people, how about a thinker and his thoughts? Rather than the thinker adopting something like a religion, a mission in life, a philosophy of life, words to live by, proverbs, just great ideas, rather than him feeling close to it, because those thoughts can do the same thing as, I thought she'd never leave me. I thought we'd always be friends. And one day it's just adios. They left me, with the payments for the trailer. If you had the kind of attitude of how much you liked your thoughts, how much you liked what you were thinking, it's almost as though, I hate to have to drag in extraneous philosophers like Tennessee Williams, I guess, but it's like you're not any longer at the mercy of stranger thoughts. Yeah. You're not dependent upon the thoughts having to dance with you, much less lead. But see, that's what happens when people's philosophy of life or their religion seems to break down. I mean, it's bad enough most people, if their wife or husband leaves, many times they'll come apart. I mean, sometimes so bad as some of you know, they'll write a goddamn country and western song. Or get religion, worse yet. But past the point of real people, when you're into the world of the intellect like I was talking about, you all know this is pretty common. Well, it's not as common as people's marriage breaking up and love affair, but it's worse. It's like for a person to be disillusioned in their religion, to find their priest in a bar drunk trying to pick up a sailor. You follow, and forget religion now, it's that their philosophy, they had ideas that have now let them down because they felt close. We've got to go back and dance both metaphors right quick. You realize ordinary people, friends, lovers, they say, God, I have never been so close to a person. Well, that's wonderful. That's none of our business. It's delightful. But you do understand that in life, the way things go, hormones dance around. Hormones have a life of their own. You think you do. Hormones are having a life in you. Just so you can fall out of love. Somebody else can fall out of love with you. Your close relationship to a friend can come to an abrupt halt. For God knows why. It just happens. If you're operating on the basis rather than you feeling close in the relationship, like I'm close to somebody else, it doesn't change the feeling. If the hormonal feeling was there, it's still there. But rather than you being on the basis of how close we are, it's how much I like them. And like anything beyond that, it's just whipped cream on top of the sundae. It's a cherry on top of the whipped cream. How about with thoughts? Rather than, yes, I've adopted a philosophy of life, or yes, I wandered through the darkness of a wilderness until I discovered Catholicism, until I went back to my Jewish roots, until I converted to Islam, till I became a Democrat. All of that, then you say, well, I feel close. This is now my life. Which again, from our view, from a thinker's view, there's no room for criticism. Here. You should be all in favor of it. In the same way as saying, back to the other picture, you should be in favor of young love, or passionate love, seeing people out holding hands and skipping along. Jesus, be in favor of it. Don't be cynical. Or see people that say they were friendship. We'll die. We're the Three Musketeers, even though there's only two of us. We're friends. Wonderful. Same way, people say, I don't know what my life would be without my religion. Well, if they look at you, or at least in your heart and your mind, a crayon-drawn note and a quarter on your pillow, and they're gone with a traveling salesman from Amway. But if you do it on the basis, that the idea is that you're not close to them, but you operate on the basis of how much I like that. Au revoir and de Nabiner and Fox Pass.